Welcome to Barn Banter, the podcast by Horse Illustrated. Each month, we bring guests to educate, entertain, or inspire you as you pursue the horsey lifestyle, plus an adoptable horse with a unique story. I'm Susan Friedland, an equestrian author, blogger, and speaker with a soft spot for off-track thoroughbreds. You can find me at my blog, saddleseekshorse.com, or on Facebook or Instagram at saddleseekshorse.
And I'm Holly Kakanis, editor-in-chief of Horse Illustrated and Young Rider magazines. You can find us at horseillustrated.com, youngrider.com, and Horse Illustrated and Young Rider on Instagram and Facebook.
Hello, Holly. Welcome to our August episode, which we're technically recording in the middle of July. How are you?
I am doing well. How about yourself?
I am good. I'm really excited about the guest that we have on our show, Solange Ellis, who is going to be sharing with us about her stable riding system. Gotta love a good system. And I was kind of thinking about, what's the opposite of stable riding would be falling off. And everyone loves a good falling off story. And so I don't know if I've ever heard you talk about falling off. I know you're a highly skilled rider, so I'm sure it doesn't happen very often. But do you have a good falling off story, Holly? I'm sure our listeners would love it.
I've been very lucky to ride horses that I don't fall off of too often. Even as an eventer, I've had probably the most falls as like a horse stopping at a jump and you just sail right over their head into the jump. I've done that, I don't even know, 20 times at least. So I've been very lucky to not like destroy all of my arm and wrist bones somehow.
Those crazy eventers.
I know, but it does teach you to sit a little behind the motion more than otherwise would, maybe. And then two horses that have given me like either the most fall per horse or a worst fall were like very just not trained. I really shouldn't have been riding them. The first was like a 3-year-old mostly draft cross that I was exercising fox hunters. All of them were very well trained, and she said, I just got this new baby, like ride this one, not the other one. It's like so much better. And you don't need to lunge it or anything. Like they're just
famous last words. You don't need to lunge it.
I'm like alone on the farm, right? The worst possible recipe. I just get on this horse. It just takes off bucking as soon as I sit down. And, those drafty horses, they're round, as we will be discussing with our guests. The shape of the horse has a lot to do with whether you come off of it.
It matters.
So he gets to the fence at the end of his bucking row that I had sat on thus far. Hard left turn. The saddle spins underneath him.
No.
So, of course, I couldn't stay on. I landed flat on my back, and my back hurt for a few days, but I was pretty lucky with that fall. And then when I was a groom, I got to ride this horse who... He was the most beautiful horse I've ever seen, like black and, just this chunky horse with a white blaze and 4 white stockings, just everyone's dream horse. And I could not stay on that horse. I fell off of him every day, which is not normal for me.
You fell off every day?
Well, at least like 4 times in like a week.
What precipitated the fall?
So she's like, you can take him to shows. Well, he's been out fox hunting. Well, this horse did not want to jump by himself. I think he was kind of a scaredy pants type. And so, I would just be trotting at a cross rail. 2 inches tall to get ready for all these shows that I was going to get to do with him.
Yeah.
He would act like he was going to jump. I'm telling you, like legs are both in the air, slam on the brakes, like feet would slide under the jump. He did this to me, tricked me so many times. And I would just go flying. And one time we were like out in the field cantering for his fitness work. It's a little bit of a hill, so you got to go up and down in a circle on the hill. We're cantering down the hill. He's just nice as can be, no sign, and just the brakes goes from like 30 miles an hour to 0 in 1 inch, and I went flying off there. So yeah, I don't think I should have been riding either of those horses is my lesson from this. So now I like to ride horses that I have a little more history of them know a little bit about them just as you get older. You know, I'm not in my 20s like I was during those horses, so falling off would be a little more breakable probably. So anyway, that's my story. How about you? I don't know any of your falling stories other than the stirrup one. I remember.
Oh, well, we should talk about that because I love to promote safety, but then I have one that is a little more dramatic, and it was bad in the moment and it turned out good. So the stirrup one, yeah, I kind of wince when I see riders giving their horse treats, like leaning over and kind of luring their horse's muzzle to get close to their hand. And the reason is probably about 8 years ago, I just had a great lesson, and I was on night sitting next to my friend on her mare, and we were just chit-chatting like at the end of the lesson. And Knight turned around and he had a D-ring snaffle on, and I wasn't using safety stirrups at the time. Didn't really know about them. And like somehow his bit got caught on the stirrup iron. And when he realized he was stuck, he panicked and turned into a spinning top or a whirling dervish. And thankfully I flew off, which I don't usually fall. And I just fell really hard, and he was still stuck and went spinning and spinning. And like, I can see it just like it was yesterday, probably traveled a good 30, 40 feet and like down a slope. And there was this giant wooden mounting block, like the kind that could be used for an Olympic podium. And I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to crash into that. I'm going to lose my horse. He's going to die. But somehow he fell, he toppled over, and his feet were in the air, just like he, was rolling. And then he popped up and he was okay. Now, granted, we were banged up and I didn't ride for a while, but that was pretty traumatic. And I wrote a blog post and it went viral about that. So don't get your horse's mouth close to their stirrup. But, one before that's kind of funny. It happened 28 years ago, and I remember this because it was on my niece the day she was born, her birthday. I was in 2 hospitals that day, one to see my niece, and then my previous horse, DC, we were cantering, and he just tripped, and I face planted, flew off over his head, and I broke my nose. And the reason I knew that my nose was broken is as soon as I got up and went into the bathroom to wash my face, which had arena grit on it, I noticed that my nose was pointing either left or right. It was like, oh, my nose is like pointing, not straight forward. It's pointing a different direction. And I had a slight bump that was kind of a family trait, and that was gone. So I literally went. It
looks lovely now, so I'm guessing something was fixed around.
Here's why it looks lovely. I have Christy Turlington's nose. So I went, for our younger viewers, she was a supermodel back in the 90s. Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, I had to go to the ER, and then they told me, yeah, your nose is broken. You need to have reconstructive surgery and all of that. And so I thought, well, you get lemons, make lemonade. So I went through fashion magazines and was trying to pick out a nose, and I found this Calvin Klein ad. And because it's really hard to find a profile shot of models, I realized that day. And I found an ad, and it had Christy Turlington's nose. And so I took that in with the plastic surgeon.
Looker, so good.
Yeah, I was like, I want her nose. So obviously it's not the same. Like they had to, you have to base it on your face structure and all that. But yeah, so I'm happy with the nose I have, and happy it wasn't more serious. And yeah, those are some fall stories. But I hope I won't fall out of a boat on Chincoteague Island. Now I know that the pony swim.
Professional.
Yeah, so we talked about the pony swim with Sarah Boudreau. You guys will have to go back and listen to our previous episode. It was really good because it's the 100th Pony Penny Week this year. But the reason we're recording early is because I'm heading off to the island to see this iconic swim, and I'll have some great stories when I get back, hopefully.
Bring your extra gallon size mosquito spray. I'll never forget you talking about the mosquitoes the first time. That just like stuck in my head forever. So
yeah. But I'm really excited about this episode. I think it's going to be very practical, And I hope that people will be maybe inspired to rethink maybe some of their riding circumstances, or just, like that it shouldn't be painful. You shouldn't be falling off a lot. And and if anyone is in the Ohio area or going to Equine Fair in the fall, they'll definitely want to connect with our guest, Solange Ellis.
That said, let's hear from Solange. For special rates on Horse Illustrated and Young Rider magazine subscriptions just for our podcast listeners, visit horseillustrated.com/barn banter.
Hello, Solange. I'm so excited to have you here on Barn Banter. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
Okay. Well, I got a little insight just a few minutes ago before we hit record that you have a fox hunting background a little bit, and that's something we share. But before we get into that and all of what you do with riders to help them be safe and feel good, I would just kind of like the skinny on your life. So where did you grow up and how did you get to horses?
I grew up primarily in northeastern Ohio, and I got into horses because when I was 5, my parents took me out of school and took me to a circus, and I rode a pony on a pony ride, like one of the little ones that turns around. And I went, this is it. This is what I want to do. So from there, I went into lessons and I rode Western. Then I rode saddle seat equitation really seriously until I was about 12 or 13. And from there, I went to a hunter jumper barn and rode hunters and jumpers. And then once I started my own business, because I dropped out of school at the age of 15 to start breaking horses to ride professionally. So once I had sort of financially emancipated myself from my parents and started my business, inside of that process was when I started riding side saddle, when I started fox hunting and jumping in my side saddle. And I also had access to a wonderful pre-St. George schoolmaster for a lot of years and was able to school some pretty high level stuff because he was sort of a tricky fellow and not everybody wanted to ride him. But we got along great, so I'm very thankful to him. So I've ridden a little bit of everything.
My head is spinning, and I want to go back to something you just said.
Yes.
Did I hear correctly that you fox hunted in a saddle seat saddle?
And a side saddle. I have a side saddle.
Side saddle. Sorry. Well, that's also
I did fox hunt my saddlebred for years, and I remember the first time I took her to, she was parked out, and a guy rode past me and went, "Little miss, your horse has to pee." And I went, "Big sir, she's parked out."
Did you really say big sir?
I did. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's what I say whenever anyone calls me Little Miss.
Oh my gosh. I got to remember that. But I've never had anyone call me Little Miss.
Well, it's ironic.
Okay.
6 feet tall, but it was just because I was young,
Okay. So we need to break down some other things here. So you started breaking and training horses when you were 15. So what kind was this like? What type of horses? How did you get that gig?
Breaking mostly unbroke feral horses that were in people's backyards, like babies, like doing just baby horses. That's what was my gig. And then also taking in all the horses in my surrounding local area that had sort of flunked out of all the other training barns. And I was like the last stop before it was like, we're going to euthanize you for being dangerous. So that's kind of the work that I did. And riding, because I did that, it wasn't really breed or discipline specific. It was sort of whoever needed what I was offering at the time horse-wise. So that gave me a lot of personal experience in how to be stable on a horse because I didn't so much go like an inch wide and a mile deep. So I was riding gaited horses, draft horses, ponies, saddle horses, quarter horses, thoroughbreds. It didn't really matter. And being on that many different horse bodies that all move differently and balance differently and function differently beneath me was what helped sort of to start the genesis of my stable riding system in my own body, because I was able to experience that and really synthesize it and understand how it was going to apply to other riders.
I was looking at your website and I saw kind of this not logo. What is it? The motto, like Nike's Just Do It. And yours is all riders deserve to ride more and fall less. So did that kind of, come about from you falling or people on these dangerous horses?
So ride more, fall less. I would love to say that I came up with, but I did not. A member on my team came up with that saying and we put it into a logo, and it's really been, it gets a lot of attention and it gets a lot of really positive feedback. My stable riding system is a real world practical riding system. So the horse industry is an industry, and it's designed to generate revenue. And I meet a lot of people at Equine Fair, and I go, and you can see where we're standing. It generates a lot of revenue. And the majority of that revenue is often generated for the horse industry in shows and competitions. Mm-hmm. So because of this, trainers, clinicians, coaches, instructors tend to be monetarily incentivized to teach the riding position that is successful and rewarded in the show and competition rings. But that always isn't necessarily what keeps you stable, because you're rarely being judged on your stability. Oftentimes you're being judged on your appearance, or the appearance of what you and your horse are doing together, or a secondary skill that's layered on top your riding, like mounted archery or polo or cowboy mounted shooting, mm-hmm. right? So there's not a lot of instruction that's designed for people who are looking to be stable, and that's their main focus, or riders who consider themselves to be pleasure riders. So you're going to start to get into like trail riders, fox hunters, endurance riders, riders who are getting a new horse or young horse, riders who are returning to riding after a long break or a pregnancy or an injury or an illness. These are the kind of riders who are usually drawn to my system and who are attracted to stable riding. And that doesn't mean that being more stable won't help you in your show or competition career. It's just I've sort of created this niche for people who aren't necessarily, that's not their main goal with their horse, which is a pretty large portion of the horse community.
All right. So a few years ago, I took a fall prevention and safety 2-day clinic, and it was really helpful. And it kind of just made me think more about being an active participant if something goes awry, and not just allowing gravity to drag me down, literally. So how is what you do with stable riding? Is it about like how to fall off properly? Is it more about your alignment and biomechanics while you're in the saddle, or is it kind of a combination of those things?
So I don't teach falls. I'm not a fall clinic, and I don't teach falling. Mm-hmm. I teach how to stay stable on your horse's back using the 4 basic factors of your riding position, which is your skeletal alignment, your weight distribution, what you're gripping with, and how you're absorbing. You know, we spoke earlier in the conversation about my own experience with riding with all the different horses, all the different horse behaviors and different horse types. And then I started fox hunting, and then I started traveling in fox hunting, where someone hands you a horse you don't know. I took all of that, what I'd experienced in my own body, riding and training and riding all over in all the different breeds, and what I observed in all the different riders that I'd taught from teaching riding lessons with no real restriction. And I put those two things together to create my stable riding system. So I use skeletal alignment first as a way to see if a rider is going to be stable or not. You know, I always tell people that my particular brand of genius is that I can see a rider instantly in a quick flash, and looking at the lines and angles of the rider's body with the horse's body tells me if that rider is currently stable, and then allows me to predict out futuristically if they're going to remain stable under different conditions or different gaits or in different environments. So while I don't teach falling, I teach how to keep yourself from falling. But also what I have personally observed is when someone is riding well and they fall, the fall tends to be less problematic than if they're riding improperly when they fall. So even if your good riding position doesn't keep you on, it's going to allow you to land in a way where you won't be as injured. And everyone will see a huge crash and go, I don't know how that person just got up and walked away. And then other people will be like, we were walking out with my feet out of my stirrups and I fell and broke my arm. So the position you're in before the fall occurs, which like in the military, they call it left of bang, what happens before the incident, really can affect how your fall plays out.
If it's all right, I would like to dwell on this falling concept for a little bit. So I don't fall that much, and I've tried to figure out if it's because I don't take risks and I'm not a, crazy rider, or if I am stable. But like I've known people who it seems like they're falling off so frequently. And when I hear this, like, oh yeah, I fell. And generally it's not anything that's super serious, thankfully. But my thought is always like, I don't know if I'd be as enthusiastic about riding if I was falling off so much. And now I have a really tall horse too. He's a 16.3 thoroughbred. But is there any kind of measure? Like if you find that you're falling off weekly or monthly, or you know what I'm saying? Like, is there a number where someone could be maybe questioning it, not as just like, well, that's what happens when you ride, but maybe there is something that is amiss in their position, or maybe not a good match, or I mean, it's kind of a large topic, but
to boil this down to, I think, its easiest points. If you're around horses a lot, you're like, I'm around horses a lot. Once every 6 months, you're going to get a little banged up. Maybe you get kicked accidentally. Somebody steps on your foot. Your finger gets nipped. You know, they bonk you with their head. And that's just, sometimes you're just around horses a lot. So the chance of something happening with a horse goes up. A true fall where you fall off, the riders in my system probably go anywhere from a year to 3 years in between falls. So I would like to see people falling, like I fell off last February. I like it when people fall off and I go, when was the last time you fell off? And we all have to think about it. That's really what I like in a rider. When riders are falling frequently, they have a higher chance of injury, which is then going to either prevent them from training the way they want or just also affect the rest of their life. Because a lot of times the person who's riding the horse is financially responsible for the horse. So if you injure yourself and then can't work, it affects the horse's livelihood. Also, if you're falling enough that it's now a concern in your mind, part of the RAM space of your brain is worried about staying on. You start to get some defensive habits, but also it begins to affect how empathetically you're able to communicate to your horse with your aids. Because now we start asking the horse to perform some self-limiting behaviors because we go, I really need you to not feel that way. Because if you feel that way, you're going to express it physically, and then I'm going to get nervous and I'm going to fall off. So we begin to put the burden of responsibility of safety and emotional regulation on the horse. And I think that that's incorrect. So that's why I like to see riders riding without being actively worried about falling or having falling being something that they have to really consider, because it starts to cloud their ability to communicate clearly and competently with their horse with their physical aids. But also some riders fall more because of the intersection of tack type, stirrup length, horse shape, and rider body type. We don't talk about this rider is a light mass rider. They weigh less than the minimum optimum rider amount, which is 120 pounds. So petite women and small children are going to get disrupted off their horse faster. We don't talk about this rider has a large, ample bosom and petite arms. We don't say this rider is this height, the same height as me, but her legs are 3 inches shorter because all of her height is in her torso. We don't say this guy is 6'2" and riding your same horse, which means that he's going to naturally have a higher lever arm above his axis of rotation because he's a man, but also he's going to have less grip with his inseam because he's 6'2". So traditional riding instruction assumes a lean, athletic, male-type body that hovers between 5'7" and 5'11". That's usually around 170, 180, 190 pounds. So if you're not that ideal body type, the traditional riding instruction that stems from classical dressage and classical equitation and some of the cavalry is not going to apply to you. It's just not. You have a different body type. And a lot of riders are putting square pegs in round holes because the instruction is, we all ride like this because this is the best way, but their body doesn't go that way.
Now, this is fascinating to talk about because, and going back to fox hunting, I once was a guest at a hunt and I got a polo pony hireling, and I had rode with them twice, and 2 different polo ponies, 2 different seasons.
Yep.
And the first one, I had a lovely ride. And even though I'm taller and I have a longer leg, like it was effortless to ride this mare, and I had so much fun. Yep. The second polo pony, also a horse of smaller stature. I'm thinking with some Arabian in him. I felt like Fred Flintstone with the legs, and I felt like I was teetering, and I thought, oh my gosh, I never feel like I'm going to fall off. And then his head or his neck, just like the shape of it. I've heard of people like breaking their nose or getting a black eye or like hitting the horse. Right. And I didn't understand that. And I was like, oh my gosh. So the way I was riding, I felt so insecure because I like the way I know how to ride on my horse, and most of the horses, it didn't. And I just
doesn't make you a bad rider, and that doesn't make that horse a bad horse.
Yeah.
But the horse isn't going to change shape to magically fit you. So if you're like, I love this horse, I get along, the horse is great, but I just feel like a soup sandwich on it. It might just be because your body position isn't working with that individual horse's gait and head carriage and motion and width. And there's adjustments that you can make that then let you click into that horse like a Rubik's Cube. And now you can go ahead and travel forward. But if you haven't ridden a huge variance of horse breeds, shapes, and sizes, and a huge variance of saddles, you don't appreciate that. And that's something that when the Mongol Derby and the Gaucho Derby riders do when they come to my facility for rider intensives is we put them on horse. I have a pony who's like, I call him my Mongol pony dupe. He's shaped like a Mongol horse. We put him in the Derby saddle so they can experience that, because sometimes they come from show facilities where 16 hands is a pony. And I go, well, the Mongol Derby horses are 13.2 to 14.2. And have you ever ridden anything with no neck that's 14.2 hands? Because it's different, right? So that's a part of it. When you start getting into horse shape, it's all a very specific algorithm that's very geometric as to how horses and riders fit together. And because I teach all riders and I have an all rider discipline, I take this into consideration. And the way someone trail rides their Arabian might not be the way someone trail rides their Halflinger, might not be the way someone trail rides their Tennessee Walker. And that's okay, because those are 3 wildly different horses.
Okay. So let's talk for a moment about the stability check. I know that you've done stability checks at Equine Affair, and you're going to be at Equine Affair this fall, I hear, in Massachusetts.
I am. I'm returning to Massachusetts. I was there last year. I had 2 demos and 3 clinics, but no booth. So this year I'm going out and I'm having a double booth, and I'm bringing 2 of my equicizers with me. That'll be tacked up, and riders can come in booth and have a stability check with me.
So what is that like? Kind of walk us through what a stability check is.
You'll mount up on an equicizer. I usually take an English saddle and a Western saddle so I can cater to whatever person kind of comes in the door. I adjust their stirrups to the length that feels referentially to them the way they normally ride. They sit on the equicizer, and to their left or right, sort of, right at the edge, lined up with their body, there's a mirror that they can see themselves in. And then I have green sticks that are about 6 feet tall that are painted neon green for high contrast. And those emulate the vertical line to the ground. So I have the rider sit on the equicizer the way that they normally do in their natural drape position. I tell them to imagine that they had a great ride. They're walking out on a loose rein. They're about to dismount in 10 strides. That's how relaxed I want them to be. Because I'm going to take one finger on their shoulder and one finger on their foot, and I'm going to put a little bit of pressure and see if I can disrupt them in the saddle. But see, they know it's coming, which is the artifice of the instruction, but your horse doesn't warn you. Your horse doesn't go, hey, Mom, check your 6. I'm going to spook at a squirrel in 10 strides, right? So then I put a little bit of pressure on them, and I see if they get toppled forward onto the horse's neck or not. And 90% of my riders get toppled forward onto the horse's neck because they are interacting with their stirrups and their saddle in a way that's putting them in front of the vertical line to the ground skeletally, which causes an excess of rotation around their pelvis in a way that they fall forward. And then I look at them and they always look shocked. They're always like shook when they get tipped forward. And I go, and I'm not like big or strong, and I didn't push you that hard. So then I say, look at yourself in the mirror. This is what I see. Do you see where your shoulder is? Do you see where your hip is? Do you see where your foot is? Here's the green line. Do you see how your shoulders are in front of the vertical line to the ground and your feet are behind the vertical line to the ground? This is why mechanically using physics, I was able to disrupt you. And then I adjust their position in real time. They see it in the mirror and I give them their stability check again, and then they don't move. And it's when you teach someone something that's very different often from what everyone else is instructing, they don't believe you unless they experience it. So I could talk till I'm blue in the face and everyone will go, nah, that lady's wrong. But the physics doesn't lie. And because I teach with gravity and physics and my bones, which aren't changeable, and my horse's bones, which aren't changeable, it always works because I'm working within these non-changeable confines of the 2 bodies. And gravity, I always say, unless I start teaching lessons on Mars, this is just how this goes. So that's what my stability check includes.
Okay, well, I'm also going to be at Equine Affair. I'm giving a little talk.
So you're going to come for a stability check?
Yes, I'm going to. We need to get it on video, and hopefully
Yes.
I'm going to read up, so I'll be like, okay. No, but so I had a couple other questions that sort of go with that. The first one is, do you find there are certain discipline of riders that tend to do better at the stability check, or if someone is an athlete outside of riding, that they tend to do better, like if they're just
outside physical skill, like physical arts and physical skill activities do not apply. That doesn't seem to make a change. And I keep saying I need to find like a young male gymnast that I can put shirtless and oiled up on my equicizer with rippling abs and tip him forward, because I don't know if you've noticed this, ladies, but have you noticed that everyone's trying to sell women that they can't ride a horse because their core is not strong enough? Have you seen this whole stronger core thing? My Instagram is like, you need a stronger core. Are you struggling with your core? And I'm like, you can just put your bones in the right place with the core that you have today and be more stable. So I love the tip forward and oiled shirtless gymnast. So if you know one, I'm in the market. The disciplines that tend to have a higher chance of passing my stability check are often fox hunters, horse train, anyone who does any real world riding, pickup rider at the rodeo, break horses for a living, whippers in, outriders the track. People who are riding in real world situations tend to know I need to stand. And they also tend to be, an aspect of the horse world that doesn't always have health insurance or paid time off. So they're very incentivized to not have their head hit the ground. So Western riders overall tend to do a little bit better because they're used to sitting on their pockets, quote unquote. They're accustomed to having a little bit more of a deep seat. Saddle seat riders tend to have really beautiful heels, so that helps them. The riders that tend to get tipped forward the most are the hunt seat riders, the hunt seat girls who are like on the flat and over the fences, and then the dressage riders tend to be unstable. So
guilty. I don't know how this is going to go, but we'll find out in November.
Very explainable by this is this discipline and this is their ethos and this is how this involved and that's why this is instructed this way. Like that can all be broken down pretty simplistically once a rider experiences it. I always say that one of my next t-shirts is going to be, it's not you, it's your instruction. That's going to be, I say that to people a lot.
That's cool. Well, I want to hear a little bit about this Mongol Derby and Gaucho Derby thing, because here's the deal. I love riding. I love travel. I read or maybe I listened to an audiobook, but Rough Magic. That young woman that did the Mongol Derby. And I was so grateful for the book, because it's like, well, this is something I absolutely never would want to do. Like it just sounded horrible. But I know people love that. And I love that there are true adventuring spirits of fellow equestrians out there that do that. But, with the camping part and potentially eating horse meat, I'm out.
I've never slept outside in my life, so I don't know if I'm a good candidate. Like, I've never, ever slept outside, and I don't know if I want to. Like, I'm loosely considering, but I'm not, sold on the activity, so I don't know if I could do the camping part.
Well, I hope I didn't talk you out of it, because I will fully support you doing it, so then I can hear about it.
I taught my first set of Mongol Derby riders they were in the 2014 race. So what's that now? Over a decade ago. And this was when social media was around, but not with the fluency it is now. And not a lot of people had heard about it. And when the female rider told me that Stevie Delahunt, who now has Intergalactic Equine in Bend, Oregon, who actually just had a Tevis completion, when she told me she was going, I was like, you have to explain this to me because I'd never heard of it. So I ended up teaching her for about a year. And then her teammate, they ended up teaming up. He came in. And the Mongol Derby riders were the beginning of my rider intensives, where people came and they stayed with me for multiple days in a row and they trained 6 hours a day. So that's how those two started. And then from there, Stevie and Adam had a very successful Derby run. And then Stevie started her own endurance riding business in her own right, and then started to recommend riders to come in and train with me. So this year, I'll have 2 riders who trained with me here in Ohio. They both came up twice, Hugh and Courtney. They will be my 8th and 9th, or 9th and 10th Mongol Derby riders that I've taught since that first set in 2013 and 2014. And also, I had 2 Gaucho Derby riders who came in. So when you have someone who's going to be riding 1,000 kilometers over 10 days, when you have someone who's going to be riding like the Derby riders do, 30 semi-feral horses, it strips away a lot of the artifice. There's a lot of things you can do in the show ring for 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 minutes on your horse that you can't do for 2 hours or for 6 hours, or for 8 hours, or for 8 hours, 6 days in a row. So it allows me to really see very clearly what works and what doesn't from a structural standpoint, because those riders really have to be riding with their bones. They can't ask their muscles to do it. The tiny tendons and ligaments and muscles around your joints will give out when you're riding 1,000 kilometers over 10 days. So it's been very informative to my system. Even though the majority of the riders I teach are not going to the Mongol Derby, it has shown me a lot about how humans and horses can interact for a long period of time.
Holly, are you up for the Mongol Derby? I nominate both of you.
How funny that you say that, because I was a guest on a podcast a few weeks ago where the host, he rode in the Mongol Derby a couple of years ago. And so I basically just started interviewing him because I had like 10,000 questions about it. Like, did you drink mare's milk? Did you get food sickness? Like, how did you this and that? Like, did you finish? What happened? So it was
and on the fox hunting tie-in, I do exit interviews with my Derby riders when they come back, because I want to know how many of the horses were gated. Did you like those stirrups? How'd those pants work out? What position were you mostly in? Did you get mostly this or that? And then like a gear list, because it informs my ability to be able to then teach the future generation, because I have more institutional memory from each rider. And the one rider, Krista, she came back and she said, I said, if you're doing it again in 1 year, you're doing it again, what would you do differently in your training? And she goes, I'd fox hunt as much as I could, because that was the closest thing to the Mongol Derby, which made sense to me, because when I fly to a place and somebody hands me a horse I don't know, intact, that's not mine, at dawn, and goes, okay, you're going to ride from anywhere from 2 to 4 hours in a large group at a high rate of speed over uneven terrain that you don't know where you're going. That's the closest thing to the Mongol Derby we really get here in the U.S. So she said that's what she would do if she was going to do it again.
Okay, so Holly, there's a fox hunt not far from where you live. I'm counting.
I wanted to go fox hunting for 20 years. I just have not somehow gotten around to it. Mongol Derby, definitely out, never happening, but I do respect those who do.
Okay, actually, my question that I wrote, I'm a little embarrassed to read this about the Mongol. I'm going to read it to you. So it goes like this.
Yeah.
You've trained riders for the Mongol Derby and Gaucho Derby, some of the toughest races on earth.
Yes.
What unique challenges do those riders face, and how does stable riding prepare them? And then I wrote, how are those riders different from, air quote, the rest of us, LOL? And they wrote LOL. So I don't know. We kind of addressed that. If there's anything from my very poetically worded question you want to answer, you may. But
the Derby riders need obviously a level of physical fitness and grit that the most of us don't. They need to have a much different and more open mind about the gear and the clothes that they're willing to wear, because traditional riding clothes don't cut it if you're going to be that hot and that cold and maybe wet for a long time. Sometimes it rains for days. So there's a gear testing and a physical fitness aspect to it that I think really only applies to the Derby and not so much to other riding activities. But then also understanding being on very small horses with a low head carriage and a propensity for, with a low head carriage horse, you get bucking and bolting, and then you get tripping because you're going very fast on even terrain. And also the understanding that they're not fully broke. So you're not going to leg yield him over. There's not going to be I'm going to use my indirect rein here to shift his shoulder. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of times when it comes to the aids that they'll be using, I'm like, think Mr. Rogers land. Left, right, stop, go. Left, right, stop, go. That's all you're going to need. So sometimes it's reframing that, because often the Mongol Derby and the Gaucho Derby riders are very high-level riders. So they're accustomed to a more erudite communication system with the horse that's not necessarily applicable in that environment, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that does. I love HGTV. And so I know you have a lab that you referred to that people can come. Can you kind of walk us through, so we can picture, even though this is audio only, what your lab looks like and what people, who would come and work with you at the lab, like what that would be like?
So the lab, when I bought this property, it would have been 12 years ago, and moved my business here, there was a large equipment/tool barn, big barn. You could fit like 8 or 10 cars in it. The gentleman of the family whom we purchased the facility for had like a metallurgy business in it. So it was full of what I call old man American pickers farm junk. Like everything was heavy and metal and rusty and leaking a fluid of some sort. And I opened it up and I looked at it and I pushed stuff far apart enough that I could park my tractor in. And then I closed it and I didn't look at it for 8 years because I was busy. I'd bought a farm and I had a young daughter, and it was just, you know how you lose time when your kids are little. So when I returned to teaching Mongol Derby riders in like 2019, I realized that one of the better ways to be able to cross-train these riders was on the ground with ground exercises and on specific tools. So the first 2 tools I bought for the lab were an equicizer, and Frankie Lovato is right up here in Ohio. He's only an hour and a bit from my house. And then I bought a Mighty Bucky from Texas, which is a professional bull riding barrel. And I started the process of taking all those things out of my lab, clearing out this entire space, cleaning it, getting new lights, putting these tools in, and then starting to teach on them and curriculum build on them. And from there, I immediately knew I needed more equicizers. I ended up picking up a home horse along the way. We have mirrors and sticks and swings and pads and everything that a student could need to access the hyper-specific body motions necessary to ride a horse without the emotional complexity of the horse beneath them. And when I started it, I had several people look at me and go, "That's a bad idea. You shouldn't do it." And I went, "Well, I already bought the stuff, so it's happening." And very quickly I went, I'll just teach I'll try and teach 4 lessons a month in the lab just to kind of play with it and see if we like it. And now I would say that on average, I teach about 50% of my lessons in there. People come to me because I have the lab. It is, to the best of my knowledge, the only riding lab in the world. There are other places that have some of these tools, or like the large robo horses that you can ride. But this is the only place that has been specifically designed with a multitude of tools and then a curriculum system behind it that allow riders to train in it. And I think, too, I've realized since I've started that since it's a separate dedicated space away from the barns and the cross ties and the arena that closes, riders who are lower confidence or nervous or returning to riding after a long break, they get to train not in the public eye. Because so often when you're in a barn, it's really open and not everyone feels comfortable going through the learning process with an audience. So I found that it being its own separate barn is really handy. And also it's heated in the winter, which is really great because I'm in Northeastern Ohio. So that's the lab. And when I go and I do demos and presentations and events like Equine Affair, I take elements of it with me and set up little mini labs everywhere I go.
I love that. 2 more questions, and then I'm sure Holly has several.
Yes.
The first is, do you have time to ride yourself these days? Do you still
ride not as much. I spend the majority of my time teaching and not as much of my time riding. I find teaching riders to be a more engaging and fascinating process than training horses, because I always say I never met a horse that had to read the horse manual. Like, horses pretty much come out knowing how to be horses. But the humans tend to need more support on the riding end than the horses need on the horsing end. So I find teaching riders more interesting and engrossing than training horses. And also because I teach full time, and I teach 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. So I teach a very high volume. When I do ride, it's for fun on my own horses. So I was kind of able to decouple the process of riding from being my job, which I think allows me to not get as burnt out as some people in the horse industry do. So I ride for fun. I ride with my kid. Sometimes I ride really slow. Sometimes I ride really fast. It's just whatever I feel like that day.
And my last question is, do you ever have riders come to you because they maybe have an old injury and there's pain involved in riding? Maybe like they broke their tailbone or just, something like that. It's really painful for them, but they want to keep going with a sport that they love.
1,000,000%. I talk a lot about riders with complex riding histories and riders with complex body histories. Sometimes they're both. So riders with complex body histories are replacements, fusions, cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, different types of scoliosis, riders who have had broken pelvises, riders who have fallen and had brain injuries and are coming, understanding that sort of neurologically. A lot of the work that I do in the lab is for riders with these complex body histories because it allows them to experience what their body is capable of currently without having to be on a horse. So if you try and do something on an equicizer and it doesn't work, we go, maybe not today. And you're not strapped to the back of a 1,000-pound flight animal when you're exploring the boundaries of your body. But a lot of the riders I get consistently tell me that they're riding with pain or in pain. And it's my knees hurt, my back hurts, my ankle hurts, my shoulder hurts, my toes go numb, my foot goes numb. I have a lot of women who are, and I don't know if I can say this, riding on their vaginas and experiencing a lot of discomfort. So I look at them all the time and I go, riding shouldn't hurt. You can be sore the next day. It's a physical activity. You worked out. It's exercise. But in the process of riding, it shouldn't cause you pain. What brings you joy shouldn't cause you pain. And let's together craft a bespoke riding position for you that allows you to do what you love in a stable fashion with the body that you came into with today. You walked in with this body. Let's talk about this body and let's help this work for you. So riding shouldn't hurt would be another one of my t-shirts.
I love what you just said. Craft a bespoke riding position. I wrote that down.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
and
great.
Because of that, there can't be any one way that I teach people to ride. And so often I'll put something up on social media and everyone will be like, well, that's not how you're supposed to do it. And I go, hey, this isn't how I teach everyone. This isn't how I teach all riders. This is how I teach this rider. And it works for this rider for all these reasons. And if it wasn't working for them, they'd stop doing it.
I just had one question. Going way back to the beginning, you were mentioning how most riding systems were designed for a man's body, 5'7" to 5'11", and that is not the same body as most females possess.
Yes.
You are both tall, but I'm only 5'4", which is very average.
Yep.
Do you have any specific tips that relate to how, that average woman's body is just differs to how it should be, riding from?
So your height after a certain age, you're not getting any taller. So your arms aren't getting any longer and your legs aren't getting any longer. So think about lengthening your leg. I'm trying to lengthen my leg. I'd like us to get to a point in our instruction where we're no longer yelling things at people while they're actively riding a horse that are physically impossible. You can't lengthen your leg. You can't lengthen your arm. This is just how long your arms and legs are. So understanding that when your stirrup is adjusted to the appropriate knee angle, if you're a more petite rider, your knee is going to look different on the horse. You might need a different flap shape. So often riders with a shorter inseam do better in flatter flapped stirrups and on narrower bodied horses because it lets them feel like they can actually get their leg around the horse. Also, almost all riders I see carry their hands too far in front of them. So the whole shoulders back, put your shoulders back. You're often asked to put your shoulders back without being allowed to move your hands closer to you, which is a skeletal physical impossibility. So I find with my petite riders, I'm often looking at them and going, you might have to actually buy extra long reins for your average sized horse to accommodate the fact that your hands are going to be closer to your body, because how far away from your body your hands go is based on your skeletal arm length. And if you're a woman and then you have a chest, that affects your hand position. And then if you also subsequently wear a safety vest, which I'm all for, we have a lot of my fox hunters will hunter pace in like an airwear vest and they're kind of thick. Well, that adds, again, more circumference to your rib cage. And then you have to adjust your hands back as well. So I spend a lot of time telling I call it my special short lady system, because I'll meet someone in my booth and they'll be upset about something, or sometimes they're telling me a very emotional story and I'm like staring down at them because I'm 6 feet tall. And in my head, I'm like, are you even 5'3"? And then I'll go, well, let me ask you, how tall are you? And they're like, well, I'm 5'2". And I go, well, has anyone ever taught you to ride the special short lady way? And they're like, no. And I go, well, there is one. Like when you're little or shorter or a kid or a petite framed rider, you're not going to canter. A woman who's 5'1" and weighs 130 pounds is not going to canter a horse the way that my cowboy who's 6'4" and 220 does. It's a physical impossibility. And to give them both the same instruction is doing both of them a huge disservice.
Definitely resonated with what you said just from, many decades of hard knock school. The flatter flap. I'm an eventer, and if I ever sit in a dressage saddle with those thigh rolls, I just feel like my leg is being pushed like behind me, and to sit straight up, my back has to arch so hard it's like painful.
Because it is. You're not wrong. That's true. So often riders go, well, I feel like, and I'm like, well, because it is. Like
finding a flat flap dressage saddle nowadays apparently is not in style.
I have a couple brown flat Steuben Tristans, and I'm like, you're going to have to pry those out of my cold dead hands because they don't make them anymore.
So. I know. Yeah, it's amazing that they're so
I'd
hard
like to shout out to Josh my saddle maker because I had mine fits like an old school, but it's a new saddle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's tough to. And narrow horse, I have learned that one too. I am currently riding an Arabian who is built like a fence board.
Yep.
And I love it. The owner even told me like she's the hardest horse to fall off of, even though she's so spooky because, you know, you just stay right. Your legs just hang down. And I love thoroughbreds for the same reason. But if I get on one of those wide armchair horses, I feel like I'm just not.
And if I rode your horse, I feel like I'm riding a Twizzler. And if I get on one of those giant horses, I go, wow, is this how horses are supposed to feel? This is amazing. Because, you know, I have a 36-inch inseam, so.
Oh, yeah. I'm the one that's always hemming pants and cutting off the bottoms.
Yep. We can both ride, but we can't ride like each other because there's a many, many, many inch difference.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, thank you for answering that. That's definitely.
I love this conversation because, like you said earlier, like I don't think people talk about this type of thing enough.
No, they don't. But that's okay. I'm going to start.
Yeah, now they'll be thinking about it. That's all we can do.
Yeah, and if people want to see your lab, see you, keep track of where you'll be, get to know you better on social media and that, where would you steer people?
So I have a website, stableriding.us. But as we all know, websites are hard to deal with. So I am very, very popular. I'm very busy on my social media feeds. I'm Stable Riding on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. I try and post daily, reels and posts about all sorts of things. And I've been posting really frequently for about a year. So there's many, many videos and pictures of labs and demos and events and different riders. And usually when I do a rider intensive, I break down their like 1, 2, or 3 day intensive into multiple posts so you can kind of see how those work. So social media is the way to find me. I'm just Stable Riding, and I'm a green circle with Stable Riding and mint green on the background is usually. When you see black and mint, those are usually my colors. So that's how you'll know it's me.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for your time today and joining us.
Thank you for having me. This has been great. I'm so excited to have this opportunity to be on this podcast. You know, stabilizing riders is really my life's mission. So anytime when I can have something like this where you guys give me such a big like platform boost and I can reach a large group of riders that I normally wouldn't be able to have access to, it's always really an exciting part of my business. So thank you so much.
And joining us today for the Adoptable Horse is Amanda Stevens. She's equine trainer for the Humane Society of North Texas. Amanda, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So today we are here to talk about Jenny, and Jenny is a saddlebred Arabian cross, I believe. And she obviously is a mare.
Yes.
And around 20 years old, I think. So if you could tell us a little bit more about Jenny and her personality, any limitations, just all about her would be great.
Sure. Well, we are so grateful to be able to have the opportunity to share about the amazing Jenny. She's actually been with us at the HSNT Ranch since February of 2024. So it's been almost about a year and a half now. And she was surrendered by her owner. They could no longer care for her. And so that's how she ended up being at the ranch. And she has some physical history that we had to make sure that she was okay with. She has foundered in the past. And so due to that, she requires to be in a dry lot with limited access to grass. And she does currently wear shoes, and she's doing wonderful in those. So she is 100% pasture sound. And so she's fine with that. She also had been diagnosed with Cushing's disease, and so she is on medication for that. She is on Presend, so she takes daily medication, but that seems to have balanced out her hormone levels well, and she doesn't seem to have many symptoms with the Cushing's right now and is comfortable. And then she also has, she is on Equiox as well, just to treat a little arthritis that she has. So she's definitely, been through some stuff, but with the help of medication and diet and care, she's doing amazing. And she is 100% sound, like I said, but she will have to predominantly be in a dry lot or have, limited grazing time, possibly with a muzzle or just on the not so fresh grass. And so, she comes with all of that. And we needed to make sure when she arrived that all of her levels were stable and that she was doing well on her medication and that her feet were in good condition and she wasn't experiencing discomfort. And with the corrective shoeing, she's been doing great. So all of that being said, she's just been such a joy because she really is the sweetest girl, very laid back. She had been a riding horse previously, so she had a lot of handling, a lot of human interaction throughout her life. She was very well loved by her previous owner. And so she's easygoing, has perfect ground manners. Nothing phases her whatsoever. So honestly, she would be an incredible horse for a beginner horse person that maybe wants to learn, basic horsemanship with a horse, and that wants to just really kind of save one and give them some special care, because she will need special care with the medication, and the dry lot situation that she should be in. But as far as best friend, she will be your best friend. She is the sweetest, most feminine horse. She has her beautiful little eyelashes and very delicate features. She joins up, which is a way of connecting with a human. She'll follow you around. We use her for demonstrations with our volunteers, educational demos about horsemanship. She's our superstar. And she's just one of those magical horses. I've worked with thousands of horses throughout my career. And honestly, she has a very special place in my heart because she's just been through a lot and just deserves to kind of have a safe space where she can just retire and just receive all the love that she deserves, because she will give that back 1,000-fold. So we're really excited for her to find her forever home.
So it sounds like, and she's listed as companion only, right? Not for any light riding. So anybody that's looking for that babysitter horse, she's okay with other horses. Would she be okay for a non-mounted therapy setting, or just give us some ideas of what her ideal home might look like?
Yes, I agree 100% that she would be an amazing groundwork therapy horse because of her ability to join up and do those connection-based groundwork exercises, as well as just being so beginner-friendly, right? As far as just any groundwork, any basic handling on the ground, any kind of just grooming and therapeutic connection work on the ground. She would be incredible for that. I have done countless sessions with her, kind of, geared towards that capacity. And I have a background in doing some therapeutic work. So she definitely has that ability. And then otherwise, a companion horse for another horse that needs a companion. She gets along great with other horses. And so in that sense, she would be perfect as well. Or if someone's just looking to have, that pet horse that they've wanted and maybe just don't want to ride, but just want to experience all the magical benefits of owning a horse.
Sounds great. I think of where I live here in California. We do not have grass, so she would definitely be able to find a dry lot to live
right,
in.
And I've been thinking about that. Yes, I've been thinking about that. And I'm from Scottsdale, Arizona originally. And so we don't have a lot of grass there either. But California as well. I was just having a conversation about that, about how there's definitely some places in the country that I think would be kind of an easier situation to find for her as opposed to where we are, because we definitely have grass here in North Texas, for quite a bit of the year. So, so that might be an option as well. I just, if I could just highlight that, there are those very special horses out there that connect on a deep level, that really just sparkle, and she's definitely one of them. So she does have the special care, between the medication and the dry lot. So someone would obviously have to be able to do that, but she could give back in so many other ways. And either the therapeutic or just a beautiful companion, either way.
Well, I saw the video you sent me yesterday of her, and she does just have that just special soul, I think, kind of shines through of how sweet she is. So I hope somebody through hearing this can find find their way to her and she will land in her forever home. That would be amazing. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about Humane Society of North Texas, where you're located in relation to the cities that people might know, the size of the facility, how many horses, do you have any small animals, donkeys, mules, just a little bit about Humane Society of North Texas.
At the Humane Society of North Texas, we are located in Joshua, Texas, which is about 25 miles south of Fort Worth. So we are near Fort Worth and Dallas, and we provide care for animals from all across the state of Texas, as well as even transfers from other rescues from across the country. Our property is about 35 acres, and we have anywhere between, I would say, 30 to 40 horses on our property at any given time. Right now, we currently have 37, and we do occasionally have donkeys and miniatures as well. We don't have any right at this time. And we also occasionally rescue livestock. So right now, we just rescued some chickens and roosters from a cruelty case. So we have lots of those. And occasionally we'll have pigs or goats, but predominantly we have horses mainly. We have a staff of 6, and we have a wonderful volunteer program where we get a lot of help from volunteers, and we take in cruelty horses that come through the Humane Society of North Texas Cruelty Department that is based in Fort Worth. That is a shelter for dogs and cats and small animals, and we work with them to rescue horses in cruelty situations, and then as well we take in owner-surrendered horses as well.
Okay, so a lot of different animals going on there, but I like it. And the chickens, they sound like fun.
Yes.
So that's great for anyone that's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which I know is a lot of people. So
yes,
definitely need to check you guys out for whatever animals they might be adopting. How can people apply to adopt Jenny or reach out to you guys with more questions? Is the Right Horse link better, or do you prefer they would just call you up, or what's the best way?
So you can definitely use the Right Horse link to get in touch with us. You can also check out our website at hsnt.org/equine, and you can find all of our available horses there, as well as our email address and barn phone number that you can give us a call. We have an application for adoption on our website that you can fill out, and once it's processed, we will contact you and schedule an appointment or talk with you further about the horse that you are interested in. We also have a wonderful Facebook page that we share stories of all of our horses that are available at HSNT Equine and Livestock Adoptions. You can check us out there. And yes, we look forward to sharing more of our stories with you all.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Don't be shy. Show us some barn banter love by leaving a review, and you can tell all your friends too.